And these are the kind of thinking, the ideas of many people. Sometimes we hear of people sharing their testimonies. When the doctors declare that I am stricken with cancer and there is no cure for it. And God used an amazing way to heal me of my disease. And if you probably thought that everyone who heard the testimony would have the same response. Thank God. Not necessarily. Not necessarily so. Perhaps there would be one person in the audience who is also stricken with cancer, and yet God has not healed him. And perhaps there is someone there, sitting there, whose family member has been stricken with some illness or some problems, and yet God has not helped him. Why did God not answer my prayers and He answered his prayers? Now, why did God heal this person but He did not heal me? We oftentimes encounter such kind of questions that we aren't able to answer. Sometimes we dare not say it with our lips, but in our hearts we are actually thinking that God, you are unfair. In Gideon's heart, he did not believe. In my experience, God has already abandoned me. He doesn't care about the needs of us Israelites, and He has given us over to these pagan nations to suffer. And if you were God, and if you were to say to a person that I am with you, and the person says, that's not true, that couldn't be true, what would your response be? See what God's response was. The Lord turned to Gideon. Now, this word turn to Gideon in the original text, it actually means that God looked at Gideon, turned to Gideon very intently. God did not say a word to him. God looked at him. God observed him very closely. What is the meaning of this? You think about the meaning of this. And I believe that there are a lot of people who may have different explanations. But I believe that there is something. The Lord admired him or appreciated him, and the Lord loved him. Think about this. When would be the time that you would really pay very close attention to a person? Especially for us parents. Think about that. When is the moment wherein you look very intently, observe your children very closely? I have the habit. At night time, after a meeting or service, when I go home, my children are already asleep. And I would very often go before them and maybe just tuck them in. But I would always love to take a look at them.
10 or 15 seconds.
To take a look at them for like 10 to 15 seconds. And the more that I look at them, the more I love them. And because that is the moment when my children are most well behaved. And sometimes I just couldn't stand it, but I have to kiss them. And that is what observing, watching means. Now God did not rebuke Gideon. You do not have faith in me. And you don't believe in me. No, God looked at him very intently. When you love a person, you would want to look at that person. Now let me ask you a question now. How long have you not looked at your children?
你講我特別看伊，
Well, you may say, no, I look at him every
冇
day.
呀冇呀冇呀。
No, that is not true.
你問呢屆這個問題，
You ask yourself a
你
question.
哪個無實實在在用人嘅目照看到你見他人嘅目照，私嘅目照看來看去？
How long have you not looked at your children like with your two eyes, like two pairs of eyes looking at each other very intently?
呢第一步，美國有一個 survey，
You know, in the U.S., there is a survey
結婚10年以上嘅夫婦，
that couples have been married for more than 10 years.
特別講話 with eye contact， 目照看目照嘅講話 less than 1 minute。
That the time that they speak to each other with eye contact is less than 1 minute.
會有冇？
Is it
你
true?
你個小看咪？
Think about that.
你就跟你近超講話，
How do you speak or talk to your wife,
你有看伊冇？
your spouse? Do you look at him or
嚟
her?
啊！
Come,
見你，
faster,
話見啊，差事啊你啊！
faster, hurry
傻
up.
傻，
You're so slow.
你冇拼命看伊，
You don't need to look at him or her.
但係什麼時候你看伊？
But when do you really look at him or her?
冇生哦。
It's different.
當你 in love 嘅時陣，
When you are in love,
當你看到你所愛嘅人嘅時陣，
when you look at your lover,
我教你講，你能目照看伊啊，
let me tell you, when you look at her with your eyes,
你嘅心咪點動啊？
your heart is going to beat very fast.
你看埋你近照看你真係點動嘅？
Take a look at your spouse right now, whether see your heart is going to beat fast or
唔加
not.
跨咯，唔加跨咯。
You dare not see each
啊，
other
你見過
anymore.
啩？
Tonight, better look at each other.
上帝看基甸，
God looked at
因為
Gideon
上帝欣賞伊，
because God admired
上
him.
帝聽伊。
God loved
你
him.
講聽伊什麼？
And you may ask, God loved him for what?
因為基甸係正 the real。
Because Gideon was real. He was authentic.
這個人啊，基甸這個人是真真問題真實嘅人，佢心內無虛假，伊用伊經驗甲你家己講，上帝來甲我同在，無可能受話別人嘅欺負。
Gideon was a very authentic person. He was a very real person. There was not a hint of any falsity in him. It experienced told him, if God were with us, then how can this happen to us?
上帝所敬賞嘅人都是心內實實在在嘅人，正嘅人，唔是假嘅人。
The people that God chooses are all people who are authentic, who are real, not people who are false.
唔通假，
You should not be false.
係人嘅頭前，人嘅後背，唔通假。
Whether it be before the presence of man or behind the presence of man, we cannot be false.
你有當騙任何嘅人，
You can deceive anyone.
甚至騙到你嘅近手，
You can even cheat on your
但
spouse.
是你永遠冇騙到你嘅上帝。
But you can never deceive God.
你聖經裏面有真做安尼講嘅代志。
There are a lot of such kind of incidents in the Bible.
有一個聖經叫做哈巴谷，
There was a prophet by the name of Habakkuk.
這個哈巴谷有一個歷史叫做懷疑嘅先知。
Habakkuk had a nickname called the doubting prophet.
這個人竟然上帝發出 question，
This prophet actually asked questions of God.
疑問上帝幹哪呢？幹哪呢？幹哪
He
呢？
asked of God, why is this? Why did this happen? Why so?
但係上帝冇責備伊，
But God did not rebuke
上帝
him.
解答伊嘅問題，解答伊嘅困難，
God answered his problems. God answered his
因為這個
difficulties.
人嘅心內係正。
Because in the heart of this person is an authenticity.
第聖經有一個叫做約拿單嘅故事，
And in the New Testament, there is the story of Jonathan.
有人問甲你講，拿單有你講出嚟，
Nathaniel.
有人咪講，我都就耶穌咯，
And some people told him that we have met the Messiah.
你講神啊，
And he asked, who?
拿撒勒人耶穌，
Jesus from Nazareth.
這個拿單耶穌講一句話，
And this person immediately replied,
拿撒勒有什麼好物件出嚟？
is there anything good from Nazareth?
但耶穌甲佢撒都嘅信，
And when Jesus met him,
耶穌講這是個真正以色列人，
and Jesus said, here is a true
因
Israelite,
為這個人嘅心內無詭詐，
in whom there is nothing false.
求主幫助咱，
May God help us,
心內唔通有詭詐，心內唔通有彎曲，
that we should not harbor any kind of deceit in our hearts.
唔通多一個面具，一個 mask 去追人。
Do not wear a mask